So let's try this super duper croissant that I have just finished baking. So let's try together. But before I'm going to taste it, let's see how to prepare such irresistible butter pastry. At first glance, it may seem difficult, but I will convince you that even a beginner can handle croissants. I will share with you my experience and tips how to avoid mistakes. We divide the preparation of croissants into several steps: preparing the dough, resting the dough, layering and filling the dough, shaping the croissant rolls, and baking. What ingredients do we need for the dough itself? 275 grams of plain wheat flour 00, 1 teaspoon of dry yeast, 25 grams of softened butter, 50 grams of milk, 125 grams of water, 3 tablespoons of honey, 1 teaspoon of salt, and that's all for the dough. We will need 150 grams of butter for filling layers of the dough. Now prepare the bowl and a scale. This dough requires precisely weighted ingredients. Pour 125 grams of lukewarm water into a bowl and add 1 teaspoon of dry yeast. Mix the yeast thoroughly in the water. After that, add 50 grams of milk. Mix milk with water. Next, add 3 tablespoons of honey. Stir the honey thoroughly to melt it completely. In the next step, add salt, which should be also melted with water and milk. Next, weigh and sift 275 grams of plain wheat flour 00. Then knead the dough thoroughly. I kneaded this dough for about 4 minutes. When the dough is kneaded, add 25 grams of softened butter and work it well into the kneaded dough. It took me about 2 minutes to knead the dough. And now the dough needs to rest. Cover the bowl with the foil food or tight lid. Put the dough in the refrigerator for 8 to 48 hours. It is ideal if you can plan it for the night. In the morning, before you take the dough out of the refrigerator, weigh out 150 grams of butter, which you will use to fill the dough. For the butter to have a creamy consistency, it can be heated in the microwave or over steam. Use only high-quality butter that contains 84% fat. Prepare a rolling pin, flour for flouring the worktop, butter, a brush, a wooden tray, and of course our dough from the refrigerator. Remove the food foil, flour the worktop, and turn the dough out onto the work surface. Shape the dough into a small square and divide it into 9 squares by first making 3 lines equally spaced in width and height. If the squares are even, cut the dough along the indicated lines. From these squares you will roll out rectangles in the shape of an envelope, which you stack on top of the other and brush with butter. Put aside 2 larger squares for the first and last envelope. Flour the worktop and sometimes, if needed, the rolling pin, otherwise the dough would stick to their surface. The dough should be processed as soon as you take it out of the refrigerator. The higher the temperature of the dough, The softer the dough and the more difficult it is to work with. After forming the first envelope-shaped dough from the square, place it on the lightly floured wooden plate. Why is quality butter important when making croissants? Inferior quality butter tends to form small droplets of butter on the dough and can spoil the dough. Therefore, I recommend using 84% butter for croissants. Roll out each small square of dough into the shape of envelope. Place it on the already buttery coated dough and coat it again. Continue like this until you roll out all the parts. Do not spread butter on the last square that you roll out. Put the layered dough in the plastic bag and put it in the refrigerator or freezer. We need the dough to stiffen slightly again. Since my room was warm enough, I put the dough in the freezer for about 20 minutes. If you put the dough in the fridge, it would probably chill out for about 3/4 of an hour. Take the chilled dough out of the refrigerator and roll it out again. We will not spread the butter this time. You can see the dough is stiffer but not hard. Roll out the dough to the length of the worktop, which is approximately 60 centimeters long and 25 centimeters wide. If you use a lower quality butter, you would see small drops of butter just below the first layer. Lower quality butter contains more water and will cause this condensation. After baking, the croissants would have small dots on the crust. Fold the dough back into the envelope. Cut the dough along the folds on both sides. This way, you will create 27 layers of dough. Roll out the dough twice with a rolling pin. Smooth the corners and place the dough again on a wooden plate and put it in the plastic bag and finally let it cool in the refrigerator. I put it in the freezer again for about 10 minutes. After removing the dough from the refrigerator, the dough should not be hard but only stiffer. Now we will prepare the croissants, but before that, however, prepare a large tray on which you put baking paper and also prepare raw beaten egg. Roll out the dough along the length of the envelope and again along the length of the worktop, which is approximately 60 centimeters long and 25 centimeters wide. Now we shape the dough into croissants. Mark the size of the rolls with a knife in the shape of a triangle. If you are making croissants for children, I recommend a smaller size of about 10 centimeters. I usually make croissants about 12.5 centimeters in size. When you are satisfied with the marked size and shapes, cut the triangles. Before rolling the croissants, make a cut about half to 1 centimeter long in the middle of each triangle. Gently stretch the dough lengthwise and start rolling croissant rolls. The rolled croissant dough can be gently bent in the ends. Place the croissant roll on a baking sheet lined with baking paper so that the tip of the dough is gently pressed down. This way, the croissant will not open during baking. Spread the rolls evenly over the entire baking sheet. Use the largest one that will fit in your oven. Croissants increase their volume by rising and during baking. After rolling all the croissant rolls, all that remains is to brush the rolls with a raw beaten egg. Brush the croissants by moving the brush in the direction of the rolled croissant. The layered dough will retain its structure. Ideally, if you have a soft brush with which you can paint the roll like this. I used a silicone one, which was not the best choice, but it can also be done with such a brush. The croissants coated in this way are ready to rise. The most ideal temperature for rising croissants is 28 degrees Celsius for 2 hours. More modern ovens can provide you with such a mode. I either put the croissant rolls in the oven without turning it on, or sometimes I just cover them with the foil and let them rise at the room temperature, which is less than 28 degrees. In that case, you can extend the time by another 15 to 20 minutes. When the croissants have risen, turn the oven at 185 degrees Celsius, top and bottom heating. However, before you bake the croissant rolls, brush them once more with a raw beaten egg. Now it's time for baking. Bake the croissants for the first 10 minutes at a temperature of 185 degrees Celsius. Then 15-20 minutes at 165 degrees Celsius. The croissants are baked when they are golden brown in color. Then remove them from the oven and let them cool for 10 minutes before serving. The entire process of preparing croissants may seem complicated at first glance, but you will see for yourself that it is not that difficult at all, and even a beginner can handle them. For example, I sometimes make 2 batches of dough, but always in 2 bowls. I will cook one batch all the way to the end. I process the second batch by rolling up croissant rolls and putting them on a tray and freezing them. I can take croissants prepared in this way at any time and leave them to rise overnight in the oven, and then in the morning I just brush them with the egg and bake them. Now, ready for tasting? So, let's try. So good. Enjoy your baking. I am looking forward to seeing you again. Bye. Hop. Počkaj, ešte raz. No počkaj, sadni. No, ukáž. Výborne.